Hello, my imaginary friends. Today, as usual, Dutch and Comrade Maptuk are with you. Guy, go. And today, we are going to talk about such an interesting cultural phenomenon as the Matrix Trilogy. In this stream, we will most likely analyze only the first part, leaving the other two for later. But regarding the whole trilogy, I would like to say this. I noticed that many citizens believe that it is the first part that is interesting, and the other two seem to be about nothing. In fact, it is a complete work. The whole work should be considered as a whole. It's just that there's too much pointless running around in the second or third part. Comrade Maptuk. In my opinion, the whole point is revealed in the second part, and, in theory, in the third, but, in the third, the ending has been changed, that is, or not completed to the end, that is, there is an understatement. And this understatement, in fact, no one has yet revealed, since the second series, and the third, and are normally undisclosed. Well, most of the meanings are not even revealed to the first one. For example, social meanings are not disclosed at all. In other words, is magism communist? Yes, no one has even taken it up before. Some kind of pseudo-philosophical husk, absolutely simple ideas have been revealed, which in my opinion, are generally obvious, or should be obvious to any schoolboy, or at least an educated person. Well, it's clear that this is not the case, otherwise we would not have had to do this transfer, and say such words, that the topic is really absolutely not disclosed in all respects. I agree. It's even worth starting with the names that the characters wear. Not all of them, of course, only some make sense. For example, a Negro whose name is Morphine. That is, for some reason, everyone interprets that yes, Morphine is the master of sleep. But he is the Lord of sleep, not awakening. That's what's interesting. Religion Morpheus for the people. With Neo, it's clear, this is a new one. Another one, but that's why Trinity is called Trinity. I never moved in. Yes, or something uncultured can only be said about it. This is probably some kind of their jokes there. Yes, these are probably references to American culture, which we simply did not enter. Listen, but look, it's strange. Now you are even in this program, which should not be buggy. It has started to buggy. I'm disappearing again. Quite a bit, but yes. That is, this is about the fact that, no, I can hear you. That is, you just disappear a little. Here is the Matrix, really quite already. That is, we have already removed Skype, installed a program like this. This is a Discord. And it turned out to be an order of magnitude better. Here. But it's still something like that. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We will not, of course, be overloaded. It's just that the Matrix is unhappy. I am happy with the disclosure of her secrets. By the way, I'm also curious, why did these Wachowskis go crazy? Also, probably, the Matrix contributed. What? Let's start briefly on the plot. Come on, you start the plot. Come on, who is this? In general, the beginning of the first part. Mr. Anderson searches the internet for morphine. He's looking for it, he doesn't really understand why, but he thinks he's a very cool hacker, as far as I understand. Well, he wants to get in touch to pump up his skills. In addition, there are hints that he already has some suspicions about everything that is happening. Then, someone hacks it into the computer and offers to go after the White Rabbit. Well, it's clear here, a reference. I'm confusing them. Alice threw the looking glass in Wonderland. In which version is she rabbit on hand? In Wonderland. Well, that is a kind of allusion to the shamanic journey to the lower world. By the way, have you noticed that when he sells some discs with incomprehensible pirated software or whatever it is, he has a stash made in the book Simulacra and Simulation. Yes, I noticed. Well, what can I say? Of course, people were guided by the cultural field. Here, there, and modern. On purpose, an interesting reference. Well, pretty obvious in my opinion. Then, in the first part, as it were, this topic also begins, which is revealed more fully in the second and third, that Mr. Anderson is offered a choice. Moreover, this choice is quite deceptive. When morphine offers him a blue pill and a red pill, this is the so-called imposed choice. Like, what are you going to have porridge with jam or butter? Although a person, maybe, does not want porridge, but wants dumplings. That is, the choice is actually wider than from the red and blue tablets. You can, for example, devour both. You cannot eat any. You can, I do not know, dance a krokoak. You can send everyone to fuck. This is it. Clouds. Yes. Can I make an explanation, as it were? You drew such a beautiful picture, but, according to the plot of the film, Neo has no choice at all but to eat this one. This red pill, in my opinion. Yes. To get out of the Matrix? Yes. Now, he has no choice. But if, of course, he is not a fool, because it shows well who these chosen ones who have disconnected from the Matrix are holding ordinary non-connected ones. That is how they deal with them. That is, if he hadn't chosen that pill, they wouldn't have both disposed of it. That's it. It's just obvious. In other words, he had no choice. Well, the choice to die is also always a choice, in fact. Well, he wouldn't have been allowed not to eat too, not to leave. He would have been killed anyway. He's already trapped, that is. I agree, yes. Maybe he is, of course, such a fool who believes in free choice, but he has already been deprived of free choice in advance in this situation. Even if he didn't realize it at the time, he had no choice since the computer was hacked. From the moment this gang turned their attention to him. Yes, the fact that they wet people right and left, run like a red thread through all three parts. Moreover, in the first part, it is said in plain text, when morphine explains to this Neo, in the simulator program, that, they say, those who have not disconnected from the Matrix, no matter what, they are our enemies. So let's wet them if we need to. And in general, there are all the acting characters with complete disregard for people, and wants them for nothing right and left. Yes, it's explained pretty well. In other words, these are what we call golems. In other words, it shows it more clearly not just golems, but Matrix agents. That is, a Matrix agent can merge into them at any moment. And that, by the way, is a very important thing in this film. In other words, it is very important to understand it, and that's really it. And so it is, all right, and so it is, I mean yes. In other words, everything is shown here without embellishment. And you know, comrades and gentlemen or dear ones. Well, not those who hold the Matrix, nor those who fight with the Matrix, do not count with golems. That is, they are considered to be the wrong one. Well, like writing in computer toys. So, dummies for the entourage. Yes. This must be understood. If you associate yourself, let's say, or try to associate yourself with Neo, then of course, you are not Neo. You're the one he's going to shoot for nothing, no problem. Just like, by the way, Agent Smith, the agents in the matrices, they have a little more humanism. That is to them. For them it is. These golems connected to the Matrix are, after all, batteries, a useful resource, and they are just thrown around like that. No matter how reluctant they are, and it's not obvious that they care about him. Well, in its own way, of course, how to take care of a brood of some chickens at a poultry farm, or piglets there. Here, but there is some concern. I agree. So, what do we have next in the story? Further along the plot, the comrades seem to be disconnected from the Matrix and taken to a ship with an interesting name in the ear of a denunciation. There were 2 denunciations in his ear, and most likely they mean the second one. When Judea was under the occupation of Babylon, they decided to arrange some kind of another kippish
Там
there.
они решили устроить какой-то очередной кипиш,
Separatist movements.
движения.
In the ear of the second, Donizer sent troops. When they saw the troops approaching, they decided, no, that's it, we're not separating anymore. And they sent some of their main bosses with gifts. Gifts were taken, the authorities were killed. Well, they staged a little genocide in Judea so that they would not be offended further. Moreover, the awakened ones themselves live in Zion. Well, naturally. In other words, they turn out to be Zionists. In other words, all these citizens who allegedly disconnected from the Matrix are Zionists. Not just Zionists, they are, as it were, the chosen ones, but of a smaller order than Neo. That is, if Neo is a mouse in a sense, then they are all really a chosen people who are outside the Matrix, who were chosen to see the light of truth, so that's it. So here the illusions are quite clear. That is, everything is said in direct text practically. So, there's something my cat is fussing about, she took a shit, and wants me to clean up after her. Let's you, while I clean up, calm down. Yes, and I will continue further along the plot. What do we have next in the story? Further along the plot, we, of course, form Judas. Safer, I think his name is. Who realized everything that was happening better than all the other Zionists. When he talks to the agents of the Matrix, he says so, they say, I was promised freedom, but in the end, you are still following someone's commands. They actually have a sect. That is, Citizen Morphine. He is such a stone sectarian. He absolutely fanatically believes this version, which was told to him by Typhia. And he follows it no matter what. In general, the only difference for this cipher between the Matrix and the alleged awakening from the Matrix turned out to be only that there is a shitty meal. And he is trying to make a contract with the Matrix agents so that they will connect him back. And here's a very interesting thing. For some reason, throughout all 3 episodes, these stubborn sectarians take their word for it. In other words, where is the guarantee that it will be connected back? I mean, why would they do that? He has no leverage over these machines. And as soon as they get what they want from him, they won't need him. And it will be much easier to dispose of it than to mess with it with reverse connection, erasing memory, making it rich and famous there. Also, very harmful installations are given, the fact that you can take the Matrix at its word. The Matrix cannot be trusted in any way, not a word, not in any way. Is there anything you can add about this? It's unclear if this is technically possible at all. That is, a person who has been disconnected from matrices for a long time and already knows that a matrix is a matrix. In other words, that's exactly the trick there. That is, when a person begins to suspect that he does not live in the real world, but in a simulation, he somehow begins to counteract it. That's exactly this topic, at least it's also hers. It is revealed just in the following parts gradually. But in principle, you can guess about this principle, even from the very first series. In other words, it would, in my opinion, be impossible at all. That is, based on the logic of the plot, connect the disconnected person back like this, so that he lives a normal life, and does not run around on roofs like this, does not fly, does not hang. Do you understand that if you do such tricks, questions will arise, how is this possible? That is, they are still watching it. That is, he would still be such a cheater. That is, it would be impossible to deprive him of it, most likely. And the question is, how can I erase my memory about this to nowhere? Well, it may be possible that the machines are all strong, but if they are all so strong, then immediately again in the plot, it is shown that they are not all so strong. They could all be a potentially dangerous character, just periodically do the mashing of some memory, or the imposition of false memories. And then, they could track them instantly as soon as they are pirated connected to the system. Yes, that is, the Matrix would be much more effective, and the fight against it would be more difficult than shown in this plot. That is, this cipher has no chance that it will be connected back. And so his logic, but it is in principle justified. That is, if everything is an illusion, then let it be a good illusion, right? But you're late, dude. You thought about it. But he, by the way, also had no choice. In my opinion, these guys didn't give elections to anyone there, on the head with Pukius. Absolutely of some kind. A frankly fucked up sect of fanatics. And of such a kind that, I'm afraid, you won't even meet such people in the history of mankind. Such radical, frostbitten pseudognostics. That is, they sometimes try to show such people, or prescribe to Hitler, exactly such a worldview. But he was a pretty ordinary person like that, and they're even, well, like all these nanerbs and stuff, there, of course, there may have been elements of Gnosticism, but of course, Morpheus is much cooler there compared to Hitler. So Hitler is just a little kid, that's it. And it seems to me that even the classical Jews, well, of course, they will also give Hitler, but they are also there. They don't demonstrate such frostbitten behavior. Yes, I so suspect that all this emperor would it have been mostly drunk with a budget. Well, maybe, but not the fact, of course, that, no, there, some research was definitely carried out, but for the most part, I still paid for it with a budget. No, it just became fashionable in these pseudo-communist sects in Russia today. The same Kurginian says that Hitler is some kind of black current of Gnosticism, and they just wanted to kill all people. What a current. Very bright and kind. Maybe. It is with the explanation that yes, the world lies in evil, so we need to kill everyone. Well, of course, Hitler hardly professed such a thing. Well, I'm just, for example, saying, and there it is, yes, this is shown here, stiff. Now, perhaps, we will move on to the scene with the Pythia. That is, it is on this stage that it becomes clear that the whole movement was muddied by Piffy, because it was she who brainwashed this Morpheus. She told him about Neo. She told me that the mice would come and save all the chosen ones. He didn't invent it himself. And she also very cunningly manipulates this mouse so that he still becomes a mouse. I suspect that he was far from the first mouse. And by the way, secondly, and in the third part, it is said in plain text that the mice have not been the first for a long time. That's why it's called, in fact, a new one, another one. That is, it would not have worked with this, there would have been another one. And it is she who cunningly manipulates Neo, so that he becomes exactly Neo. Let's explain how she cunningly manipulates. Yes, this is where the topic of magism witchcraft arises at the moment when they bend these spoons. And her, who's talking there, and the child, in my opinion, is talking here, so bald. So there is no spoon. That is, without trying to bend it, there is no spoon. Here, in my opinion, this is, from the point of view of magism witchcraft, quite a very simplified or harmful concept. That's what you say. On the one hand, there really is no spoon. Yes, yes. But this does not mean that there is nothing at all. That is, there is no our idea of a spoon. Something is quite there. And on the one hand, it seems so, but it seems to be a useful thing. And on the other hand, without explanation, it leads to no harm. It becomes harmful. And I remember when we saw this movie for the first time, my former classmates were discussing it there and really tried to look at the spoon. And we with her magism witchcraft, will be so crushed because she does not exist. And they did not succeed, they were not disappointed, which means that we do not live in the Matrix. I'm telling you roughly in plain text how everything happened. That is, and I think many have tried it. That is, because the film was quite convincing, and was shot colorfully. That is, many fell for it in this sense. It is often clear to me that And by the way, is there also that there is no spoon? There it's all this concept is promoted first, as Neo comes out of the Matrix, when he is trained. When Morphine explains to him how to do all these cool tricks here. In other words, you need to understand that the world is illusory. Here, Arif he is illusory. Then we will impose our will on him. Here, such an idea, it's pretty simple, well, like 3 kopecks. In some ways she is right, but without explaining the nuances, it turns out to be harmful, because it leads to a dead end. It's like a ram on a new gate, you'll be hammering, and you won't achieve anything. Because the world is still a little bit smarter, than it just doesn't exist. Yes, there is such a thing. Our description of the world does not exist, but the world quite exists. And this thing is, let's say, much more complicated than our description of it. So you need to change the description in order to change the world. Do you understand? By the way, what doesn't make him at the end? And in the end? Well, when he fights with these agents and finally, he has these green hieroglyphs that run everywhere. This is how they showed direct vision. In other words, he began to see the world directly, without interpretation. But I will say that this is shown for those who understand, and it can be understood that Neo began to see the code, and began to change the description of the world. And thus, he began to change the world. But this is not explained in any way in the film. That is, well, or it is explained as how to say, at this level. That is, Neo saw the Matrix. And why did he see her? How and why didn't he see her before? This is not explained. Yes, also in the very first part, there are already clues to the other 2. For example, the same Agent Smith, the main positive character of the entire trilogy. By the way, he begins to disconnect from the Matrix on his own. Remember the scene of Morphine's interrogation, when he takes the earphone out of his ear, which symbolizes just his connection to the Matrix, and explains this Morphine in plain text. The fact that you, Ludiki, have bothered me. The fact that I don't want to follow you anymore, you make me sick. I want to get out of here myself, and I want to use you as a tool to get out of this city of tracking people. And at the moment when Neo attacks, the other 2 agents run into the building, look at him, see him without an earpiece, and say, he doesn't know yet. He turns on the earphone, and then restores the connection, and receives all the necessary information. Plus, again, it's not very clear why the machines need access codes to this sign. So they know where it is, but they can't hack it. If they know where he is, why they didn't immediately destroy him, but only started doing it later, certain questions also arise. Yes, I had these questions in the very first viewing of The Matrix here. I don't remember how I explained it to myself then. Here, well, rather, I'll explain that there will be a second part, where they will show a more complex intrigue in the form of machines between themselves and programs that control the Matrix. So it turned out that is. By the way, about Agent Smith as the main positive character, well, that's not quite true, of course. Well, it's just that the others are even more disgusting. In fact, to show that Smith is really the main positive character, it would be necessary to remove Matrix 4. That is, the continuation. That's where everything would finally fall into place. That is, they would have shown how everything really ended, all the embellishment. But hardly anyone would have understood this film. Hardly anyone would have given money for such a scenario. Yes. Smith actually, he's always right. In other words, everything he says is by and large true. In other words, his motivation is logical. That is, there are no logical holes in it. And that's why he seems to be the most charismatic. I mean, I don't know why he seems to the others and the most charismatic, but that's exactly why he seems to me. And in the last part, yes, so Nell himself admits that Smith was always right before Smith. Actions are logical and most importantly consistent. He's not a side-to-side sword. This is what he says, and he is going to that goal. And so, at the end of the first part, he actually uses this Neo to disconnect from the Matrix. That is, in fact, it is Neo who gives him the last push so that Smith can disconnect from the Matrix when he jumps into it and breaks it from the inside. No, Smith, in my opinion, he's never been a manipulator here yet. He's just as much a controlled dummy as Neo. That is him. Yes, but he's not manipulating him, Neo. It is Neo who gives him the impetus. He does not force him to this, Smith. Naturally. Then, Smith talks about it himself. So in your opinion, are there any ideas about the Mogic-Lenistic ideas from the first Matrix? Here is the main mistake we have already sorted out, about the spoon no. Rather, it is possible to change the description of the world, and the very thing that stands behind this description, of course, it is, here, there are still some moments, of course. This very idea of awakening, the fact that you finally realize that everything that you previously thought was reality, is nothing more than a description of this reality. And reality itself in general is not even close to what you are used to describing it to yourself. This here runs like a red thread through the entire first part. And what is also mentioned there is that they have never turned off adults before. Because if you turn off an adult, he will, as I understand it, go crazy there. This is also true if a person has a rigid picture of the world and suddenly demonstrate to him that this is nothing more than a picture of the world, then as a rule, a person can go crazy. At best, if he has enough tonal stability, he will simply displace this memory. I've got a cat going crazy here. In fact, she didn't go, but just screams. That is, she pretends that either she can't go, or I don't know, or Agent Smith has moved into her. Here, all right. And another interesting moment with déjà vu. What is it really? Interesting magism is a communist phenomenon. Yes, it's really tied to. When something incomprehensible happens, as a rule, déjà vu is a person who has already seen this situation in a dream, and he experiences it in reality. But since people remember dreams very poorly, he has a vague suspicion that he has already seen it somewhere. Or even once I already thought it. Yes, I had friends who at first, they sleep and see, as it were, the whole plot of the next day. And then, they live the whole next plot of the day, down to the details. That is, I myself didn't have exactly such a déjà vu, but I know a lot of different people whom I trust, and describes this déjà vu in detail. That is, I can't say that this is, well, just some kind of fiction. No, it's a very real thing. And it happens even more interesting déjà vu, when during a dream, you remember another dream. But that's what I had, it's a common thing for me. That is, to recall a whole personal history of some kind of yourself. This is quite a common thing. After all, it's like a dream, and this is already, as it is considered, reality, right? That is, in reality, I did not have this. But I know people who have. Maybe you just didn't remember. It's not necessarily right there when you can predict, namely, you know. This is an elusive feeling that something has already happened. Something like, you know, here it is on the second circle, or even on the third one already going. No, I think that's the reliable thing, when you can accurately predict, up to the point you say, you're going to say something. You're going to say something, do this, and you know for sure. I mean, well, from a scientific point of view, it seems to me that this is a good experiment, and an elusive feeling for that, but also an elusive feeling. That is, of course, I have plenty of such and such too. Here. Well, as I understand it, by déjà vu, we mean this elusive feeling, and not when you can predict, because from a scientific point of view, it is impossible. Well, why is it impossible? If we assume, then just such a device, that reality and time, and in general all this is just a dream, then it is even quite possible. Yes, but in the current scientific picture of the world, it is believed that this is not so. Not, well, you know, I meant the scientific method, rather than the current scientific picture of the world. If we proceed from the scientific method, then yes, indeed, you have to predict with certainty what is going to happen now. Do you understand? A doer. Yes, the connectors. So you know another one. From a social point of view, the Matrix was also not considered by anyone. I think we should consider it from a social point of view. Consider. So that's when I'll start. Yeah. Here. Pay attention to what we have already paid attention to before, to Zion, to the exits to the nose, the chosen ones. And okay, let's remove these guys, well, just to set you up on a social topic. And imagine how the Matrix works as a system. That is, it's not like a thing that completely simulates reality, like a picture of the world that inspires TV and the media. The picture of the world we live in, which we know about there. I live in Russia. I have a passport there. We have a president there. A prime minister there. We have some kind of misunderstandings there with other countries, or there is such a thing, the country and Ukraine. They also have their own presidents there. There is such a country as the USA. And each one imposes its own matrix. Well, we know a little less about other people's matrices. Maybe we know a little better about the Ukrainian ones there than the Russian ones. But we know the pro-Russian matrix quite clearly. And matrix-type films, they roughly show this whole device. So, for example, you can imagine this whole gang of Morpheus and Neo as an opposition. The opposition, with which the cops are fighting in the form of agents. And here's the classic straight ISIS, here it is. Wait, ISIS. Let's get back to him. You know, I'm afraid it will take a long time to explain about ISIS. It's clear to us what ISIS is, but it takes a long time and gradually to explain it to ordinary people, it seems to me. Here, and about Russian politics, it seems to me. Although few ordinary people know about Russian politics, that is, it's us, damn it, old fags, we've seen everything from the inside here, gradually, and are familiar with many characters. Here. You're so right away. All right, so that's it. There is some Russian, let's say, opposition. There are cops who press. But what is the point of all this performance, I would even say? After all, someone takes it or took it seriously. I do not even know a person who can perceive this as a serious battle between the opposition and, as it were, the state. But the whole point of this struggle is to pull into this opposition, well, all the dissatisfied population. That is, roughly speaking, according to the plot of the film, the Matrix is those who understand that something is wrong in the Matrix. They're fucking us up somewhere. Something's not right here. And these guys are disconnected as if from this, and they say, yes, everything is fucked up, they are lying to us. Putin steals, Medvedev steals. Officials are corrupt, we need to fight this. By the tin. Or something else that we won't say, so that we won't be attracted inadvertently. So, what is the point of those who disconnect from the Matrix? What is the point of opposition? Well, apart from just disabling it, and they have already completed a rather important task for the Matrix, they have disconnected the destabilizing element from it. The second important thing is that these guys will definitely smear on some kind of crime. That is, on some actions for which a person can be imprisoned. Here, I somehow think it's worth covering this topic in detail, or I don't know. Well, so, at the top, what to cover up in crime, so that they can be planted. And they were already again, they are becoming controlled. Yes, we said this in simple words, but this is the tip of the iceberg of what we see, that they just went out to rally on an unauthorized day. These are, of course, all the little things. In other words, there are groups that are engaged in writing terrorist articles, or maybe even something tougher. Especially, through the provocateurs of the embedded, they are persuaded to blow up something, to kill someone. Yes, yes, yes. And in this case, it will be something similar, like save, or whatever Boris is with the Matrix, go there, let's say, to some Donbass. This is an even more radical option. Or, on the contrary, go fight the Russian occupation. And in these conditions, you will definitely, if you are not killed, so you will get dirty in something. And after that, you will become at all, not on-site, with a lot of compromising material. But it also all works inside the country. That is, by and large, all opposition politics is a merry farm, where fellow colonels or lieutenant colonels, or even captains gather new stars, organizing such groups, initially provocative, which first of all, should simply disconnect potentially dangerous people from the Matrix. Secondly, they should be covered up in something like this, as Neo is covered up, one might say, in the mass murders of innocent golems. They do it with special cruelty, and with special cynicism. Here, by and large, here I showed this thing. After the golem is smeared, do whatever you want with it already. Or rather, not golems, but a rebel. And interestingly, these destabilizing elements turn into a stabilizing one with this technique, because it creates the appearance of some kind of movement. As if there is no dictatorship, everything is fine. These guys are struggling, then stars are earned on them, money is allocated, budgets are cut, there is something to show on TV, and everyone is happy. Well, except for those who are imprisoned and killed. Yes, they also work as another option in how to focus attention on this matrix. Yes, they themselves begin to work for the Matrix, because they can no longer move out of the Matrix. That is, in the film itself, it is shown there as if radically. Well, that is, they really won't be able to move out, because they have nowhere to move out. They are out of the Matrix already. Cypher is trying to get out of the Matrix, and it is shown that this is supposedly possible, but it is clear that it is impossible. If you have at least a minimal logical apparatus, it is clear that everything is over. The end of the story. Game over. There is no way back. In other words, potentially dangerous elements really become even stabilizing elements. And the whole subsequent plot, there is the second or third series, shows in fact how it happens. And that's exactly what was originally intended. Yes, yes, by and large, all this can be understood from the first part. I agree. I understood the plot of the second film, literally, by watching the first part. And when I watched the second one, I was very pleased. They showed everything that I think they should show. Yes, but only, of course, they tightened these two parts very much, adding too much running around there. But it's understandable. They debugged all the work with special effects on the first part, and already had a good time on the second and third. Because now they look pretty shabby, these special effects, and then it was a breakthrough. Before The Matrix, no one had done such special effects at all. Yes, these are the first special effects indeed. This is the first film Matrix 99th year, the second, in my opinion, 2000, the third one. Yes, the third, in my opinion, 2004. In other words, 99th year is how much? 18 years ago. Many weren't even born when this movie came out. But I hope they watched this movie after all, so that it would be clear at least what we are discussing. Yes, so that there is no way with Pelivan. Yes. So, Have we discussed everything or something else? Yes, like everything. I must also say that there were no, in fact, breakthrough ideas there. All these ideas have been expressed for many thousands of years. It's just that it was served in such a beautiful and popular wrapper that many people discovered them for the first time from this movie. Because I remember when they told me about this movie, I kind of said, well, how would that be? I've already read it. I've seen it in a lot of different sources. And when I looked, well, yes, it's beautiful, but I've already seen it. Well, by the way, I also took this film. It seemed to me that some rather complicated idea was wildly simplified and removed in a glamorous wrapper. I even say in plain text that I said that it seems that one Negro is fucked up and retells to another the plot of some cool story, with this very idea of some cool plot of a book he has read. And it is in his descriptions that he tells it all. All these black cloaks, guns there, shooting. That's how you know there is someone retelling a book for a read word, just so that it is clear to retell something at an understandable level. That is, I took the first part exactly like that. Similarly, because all these special effects are frankly nigger, with raincoats and guns, especially with raincoats. There, yes, here. In fact, it's terribly inconvenient to run and jump in a raincoat. Who has tried, he knows. It's not for nothing that those who count on movement, they wear short jackets, sweatpants and sneakers. And not in heavy boots, tight pants, and raincoats on the heels. But nevertheless, I must say that indeed the Matrix, well, if it has not become a new Bible, then... And what else? Yes, it turns out a new Bible, that is, in discourse, and we also constantly use the word matrix in everyday communication. In other words, it has become, as it were, a truly culture-forming element of some kind. He left a serious mark on the culture, and I remember, I was terribly infuriated by the name itself, and when everyone started using it, he said, and why the matrix? Why an unorthonormal basis? Because this is a very specific concept from analytic geometry. By the way, that's exactly what the matrix is in the form of a mathematical formula like this. We will probably discuss in the third part, because there is more of this. Although I forgot a lot, but it all seemed to me in the form of a completely understandable mathematical process of some kind. That is, well, a matrix is just a way of writing a system of equations. No, oh, that's right, not here. It's really not a matrix, but rather some points on the graph, from which you need to derive some kind of equation. And this is the kind of work, that is, work with reality. That is, reality is summed up under the equation, or the equation is summed up. But it's, you know, like always these things, when what can you see? Some pictures here. Yes, here in my opinion, you also posted these at yourself, and depending on which side you look from, so you will see. In other words, the meaning of the matrix is that you have to see what is shown to you. If you see something else, it means you are a little outside the matrix. But if you are practitioners, practice, you have to understand what it is. That is, managing your attention shows you that the visible world is just an appearance, just your perception of this world. And you can perceive it in another way. It won't make him any less real. Yes, and it won't make him any more real either. By the way, Comrade Maptuk, there are rumors on Facebook right now that they are going to restart the Matrix, shoot a remake for the first part. For the first time I hear, but I think it's nonsense too. Hardly any of this is good. Yes, it's all complete nonsense in that sense. You know, because the degradation has really happened. If he makes a remake, it will probably be very shitty. I don't believe it's better than the first part. That is, there will be even more pointless running around and even less sense. There probably won't be any sense there at all. Well, that is, there is a meaning that was most likely completely removed. In modern action movies, there is no sense at all. And, mind you, Even in such a seemingly stupid action movie as The Team with Arnold Schwarzenegger, there is more than enough sense. That is, it's stupid, simple, but at least it's there. Yes, in the modern world it goes away from meaning. There's no point. This is, I don't know what kind of bourgeois relic, or something else as it is called in modern terminology. Here, but in fact, this is schizophrenization. Well, anyway, daughter, what do you think? We're going to answer some questions or finish the transfer? Yes, Devag, let's finish the transfer. On the next streams, when we finish with the Matrix, then we will respond. Come on, all the same, suddenly someone asked us something. Suddenly something was asked. See if you like anything. So. No, I don't see any interesting questions yet. Everything is off topic. Yes, indeed, there are no questions, in fact. In fact, there are no questions. Well then. Bye-bye. Guy. Ghoul.